to live life this way, because the real is that underneath of this is actually ego. It's not being able to say, I don't know, please help. And so it means that many people would rather maintain their egos and fail than win. And so I think a lot of beginners are stuck there. They're actually stuck in their own pride. They don't reach out for help. They don't consume content because they think they're smart enough. And this is something that's really common amongst people who identify as being intelligent. That's actually what's really interesting. This is why I think humility is such an important part of getting to where you want to go, is that you have to be able to say, I don't know.
And that right there, that inability to say, I don't know, is the cornerstone of an invisible prison. It's a structure that confines more potential than any physical wall ever could. Its bars are not forged from steel, but from the quiet, persistent fear of what others might think. Its walls are not made of stone, but of a deep internal resistance to appearing weak or incompetent. We become both the prisoner and the warden, patrolling the corridors of our own minds, ensuring we never step out of line, never reveal a gap in our knowledge. The cruel irony is that this prison feels safe. It is familiar. It protects us from the sharp sting of judgment and the perceived shame of ignorance. But protection is not progress. Safety is not growth. While we sit comfortably within these self-imposed limits, the world of opportunity, connection, and exponential growth continues on without us, just beyond the walls we refuse to see. The first step to breaking free is not an act of force, but an act of sight. To recognize that you are imprisoned, and that the key to your own cell is a simple 3-word phrase: I don't know. This prison is not something we are born into. It is a structure we are taught to build, brick by painstaking brick. Consider the architecture of our early lives. Our school systems, for all their noble intentions, often become training grounds for the performance of intelligence rather than its cultivation. We are handed back papers marked with red ink, highlighting our errors. Yet rarely are we celebrated for asking a question that reveals the boundaries of our understanding. The system rewards the swift and certain answer, inadvertently punishing the thoughtful, vulnerable question. This carries into our careers. The person who admits confusion in a meeting is seen as lagging behind, while the one who nods confidently, even in ignorance, is perceived as capable. We are conditioned to equate knowing with value and not knowing with liability. We learn to construct a facade of competence, to project an aura of certainty, because we are taught that this is the currency of respect. Over years, this performance becomes second nature, and we forget that it is a performance at all. This long-term conditioning leads to the most dangerous of psychological traps, the fusion of our identity with our intellect. It's a subtle cognitive slide where I made a mistake becomes I am a mistake. I failed at this task becomes I am a failure. The temporary state of not knowing solidifies into the permanent identity of being ignorant. Our ego, in a misguided attempt to protect us, latches onto the label of smart or competent as a core component of our being. Therefore, any situation that challenges this label is perceived not as a learning opportunity, but as an existential threat. To say, I don't know, feels like an act of self-destruction, an admission that the entire character we've built for the world is a fraud. We would rather cling to a brittle, fragile identity and fail in silence than risk that identity cracking to let the light of new information in. The truly wise, however, understand that their identity is not the vessel, but the water within. It fluid, adaptable, and capable of taking new shapes. The path out of this trap begins with a radical reframing. We must stop seeing the act of asking for help as an admission of weakness and start seeing it for what it truly is: the highest form of strategic leverage. Think of it in terms of physics and finance. A simple lever allows you to multiply your physical force to move an impossible object. A financial loan allows you to leverage future earnings to seize a present opportunity. In the same way, asking for guidance is an act of leveraging time itself. You are borrowing someone's entire history of trial, error, and breakthrough, and collapsing what could have been a decade of painful lessons into a single conversation. The smartest person in the room is rarely the one with all the answers. It is almost always the person who knows how to source the best answers from everyone else. It is not an act of neediness. It is an act of supreme efficiency, an intelligent allocation of your most precious resource, time. This leads us to deconstruct one of the most cherished and destructive myths in our culture, the myth of the lone wolf, the solitary genius who achieves greatness in a vacuum. It's a powerful story, but it is a fiction. Look behind any great breakthrough, any celebrated masterpiece, any revolutionary company, and you will not find a single individual. You will find a network. You will find correspondence, mentorship, rivalries that sharpened ideas, and teams that executed a vision. To insist on achieving something entirely on your own is not a display of strength. It is a display of an ego that values the credit for a potential victory more than the victory itself. It is a self-imposed handicap. True strength is not found in isolation. It is found in the humility to recognize that your perspective is limited and in the wisdom to build a personal board of directors, a collection of minds and experiences that can see the angles you cannot. Success is a team sport, even if you are the only one on the payroll. The ultimate goal is to forge an identity that does not simply endure stress, but benefits from it. This is the concept of an antifragile identity. A fragile object, like a glass vase, shatters under pressure. A resilient object, like a rubber ball, bounces back to its original shape. But an antifragile system, like human muscle, actually grows stronger when subjected to stress and resistance. An identity built on the label, "I am a winner," is fragile glass. A significant loss can shatter it completely. But an identity built on the principle, "I am a learner who always gets back up," is a muscle. Every failure, every criticism, every moment of admitting ignorance is not a threat. It is a repetition in the gym of life. It is the very stress that signals the need for growth, making you more capable, more knowledgeable, and more formidable for the next challenge. This is how you build a character that can withstand the inevitable volatility of a life of ambition. With this new identity, we can perform a true calculus of risk. The ego, a poor accountant, presents us with a distorted balance sheet. It magnifies the potential cost of embarrassment and minimizes the cost of inaction. It tells you that the greatest risk is that brief, hot moment of vulnerability when you say, "I don't know." But a clear-eyed analysis reveals the truth. On one side of the ledger is the risk of asking, a temporary feeling of discomfort, a fleeting moment of perceived judgment that, in reality, most people will neither notice nor remember. On the other side is the risk of not asking, the guaranteed stagnation of your growth, the certainty of repeating avoidable mistakes, and the slow, corrosive accumulation of lifelong regret. It is the choice between a potential, temporary cost and a certain, permanent one. The real gamble isn't reaching out for help. The real gamble is betting that you can achieve your greatest potential all by yourself. It is the one bet you are guaranteed to lose, and we must consider the nature of time and memory. The sharpest sting of failure, the most acute pain of embarrassment, these things have a half-life. As Alex alluded to, our mind eventually compresses these experiences. A month of misery becomes a paragraph in your life story. A year of struggle becomes a single sentence. That was a tough time, but I learned a lot. The pain is real, but its memory is fleeting. The weight of inaction, however, works on a different timeline. It doesn't fade, it's a void. It is the ghost of the phone call you never made, the question you never asked, the path you were too proud to take. It doesn't scream. It whispers, perpetually, in the quiet moments of your life, asking, what if? The pain of a foolish question lasts for a minute. The weight of regret for a life unlived lasts a lifetime. So we are left with a simple, powerful framework to guide us out of the ego's prison. It is a two-word mantra that should become the filter for your ambition: progress over pride. In every moment of choice, at every crossroad, hold up this lens and ask the question, which master? Does this action serve? Will this choice move me 1 inch closer to my goal, even if it means I look imperfect in the process? Or will this choice simply preserve the static, manicured image of who I am right now? One path leads to a dynamic, evolving, and ever more capable version of yourself. The other leads to a beautifully maintained museum exhibit of your past potential. Your pride wants you to be a finished statue, flawless and admired. Your progress demands that you remain the sculptor, forever chipping away, refining, and improving your work, even if it means the studio is a mess. Ultimately, the wealth, success, and fulfillment you seek are locked behind a door that looks impenetrable. But the key is not made of force or genius. The key is humility. It is the quiet courage to admit what you do not know, and in doing so, opening yourself to the infinite knowledge that surrounds you. It is the understanding that true strength isn't in having all the answers, but in having the courage to ask all the questions. If this deeper insight resonated with you, subscribe for more analyses and share in the comments how this principle shifts your perspective. To get the full original context from the source, make sure to watch Alex's complete video linked in the description below.